Hey everybody, it's Chris. I am sorry I am late. I actually was doing something with a friend to try to get the picture and the sound to be really consistent and good on my YouTube videos. So I was trying to make this in the long run. I think this is going to help us all out, but I'm sorry that I was late. Thank you for joining us. For people who don't know or are new, I do this every single Friday. I do a live stream. I also make between 5 and 10 videos a week. So I hope you check those out too. So I hope this is something that is useful to you, this channel. I really try to be independent and authentic. That's what I'm always aiming for with these videos and these live streams, just trying to bring it to you, the honest, correct stuff. I hope everyone can hear me. And I hope, sorry for the delay again. I'm all good. I just was busy doing this thing to try to get the YouTube videos consistently looking and sounding really good. So sorry for the delay. Okay. Let's see. Sherry Zimmerman. By the way, a couple quick things. One, the most important thing you can do for me is just hit subscribe and hit thumbs up on this video. That helps me a ton. I can't tell you. The other things that you can do, you can become a member of the Diamond Club, which is my subscription product on YouTube. You get 3 to 4 to 5 more videos every single week. I hope that is something that appeals to you. If you are a member of the Diamond Club and you're in the chat, please tell people why you like it. You can also donate at buymeacoffee.com. That's just a regular recurring donation. So check that out. But let me get to the questions. And again, sorry for being late. Sherry Zimmerman, tough week, Chris, for all Americans. And yet I want to say how much joy is shared with your Sunday best at age 74, checking out your 15 album selections. Yes. So for people, thank you, Sherry. For people who don't know, I also do write a Substack, a newsletter. Yesterday, because it's been a heavy week, yesterday I put out 15 albums that I really have been listening to and liking. Sherry, if you could do me a favor, because I don't want to spend the time to do it right now, if you can just go and copy that URL and put it in this chat, that would be really helpful to me. So everyone can see it. It's free. So I hope people check it out. Cillizza fan, genuinely, why did the media cover Charlie Kirk's killing more than Melissa Hortman's in Minnesota? Seems like selective empathy. All right, so I answered this question. So I do a Friday mailbag over at Substack, and this was one of the big questions that someone asked, and I do want to answer it. And I think you may not want to hear this, but I think these are the honest answers. Okay, there's 3 basic reasons why Charlie Kirk's murder got more attention than Melissa Hortman's and her husband. Don't want to forget her husband, who was also murdered in cold blood. Number one, the Kirk murder, I think assassination, happened in public with lots of people videoing on cameras, whether that's, usually it's phone cameras, but people videoing it. Now that includes the actual thing of him being shot in the neck and bleeding, which I do not recommend you watching, but it also includes the aftermath and the chaos and the before. So there's a lot of video out there of this happening. Okay. And that makes it a good news story, a very compelling television and video news story because there's so much video of it. Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed at their home in private. There's no video of the before or the after, thankfully, but I'm just saying. So that's reason number one. Reason number 2, the Hortman's murders were found out on, I believe, I know it was a weekend and I think it was a Saturday morning. Versus Charlie Kirk was shot and killed in the middle of the day on a Wednesday. 2 things are true. 1, more reporters are working on Wednesdays than they are on Saturdays. And 2, more people are paying attention to the news than on Wednesdays than they are on Saturdays. Those are just facts. Okay. I mean, it's just the news consumption is much higher. The number of reporters much higher. So that's reason number 2. Reason number 3, Charlie Kirk, whether you like him or hate him, is a much, much bigger has a much larger national profile than Melissa Hortman. A state legislator in Minnesota is known probably in Minnesota, but not broadly. Charlie Kirk, while not known to everyone, certainly who cares about politics, was known to lots and lots more people. So those are the reasons. I don't think it's a lack of empathy. I don't think it shows that the media is like biased against the left. Like I really don't. I think those are the real reasons. And I hope that makes sense. Thank you for your question. By the way, Um, for people who don't know, if you do want to donate via the super chat button, which is the little rectangle with the dollar sign in it down at the bottom of the screen, if you donate, I will read your question. I'll bump it up to the top, make sure it gets answered, but I will try to answer everybody's question. So You Snooze, You News asks this. In 20 years, will Charlie Kirk be remembered more as a propagandist or a symbol of open dialogue? That's a good question. I don't think he was a propagandist, honestly. I will admit, I did not watch all of Charlie Kirk's videos, or like, I was not like a Charlie Kirk stan or somebody who paid a ton of attention to him. I knew who he was, but um, I don't think he was a propagandist. I think he was at some level a provocateur. But I also do look, I don't agree with a lot of things that he said. There are things that he said about consent as it related to women and men, to women in certain situations that I just don't agree with, and I don't know if he believed them or he was trying to be provocative or whatever. But I did like the idea that he was basically, his shtick was that he would go to a college campus knowing that there would be lots of people there who disagreed with him and some people who agreed with him, and just take questions. And he was unapologetic in his views, but he wasn't like screaming at people and telling them to shut up. And so I like that piece of it, even though I don't sort of, his views are not my views, but I do like that. So I think he'll be remembered a little bit more as a symbol of open dialogue. Yeah, I mean, we never know. You never know about sort of hold on. Are people, hold on, I'm going to try to refresh the chat. Okay, sorry. Things are coming in now. Sorry, things were not coming in. I was slightly worried. But we're back. Dan W. Dan, thank you for your donation. Dan says, friendly wager, Chris. If Texas A&M wins, I become a Diamond Club member. If Notre Dame wins, you have to do a video chat, something with me. What do you say? You got it, Dan. Email me, cillizzac@gmail.com. Andy F. Andy, thank you for donation. Andy says, hey, Chris, hope you've been doing well. Do you think that the assassination is going to cause a rally around the flag effect for the GOP's midterm chances? I don't. I mean, I could be wrong about that, certainly, but like, I don't think that that's going to be the case. Like, it's September of 2025. People have short memories. I mean, could it matter at some level for someone? Sure. I don't think that that's going to be, I don't think Charlie Kirk's murder is going to be a thing that saves the Republican majority, for example. All right, so I'm just trying to sort through, because I know a lot of people here were saying, where is Chris? And I'm sorry, as I said, I was late because I was working with a guy who I love, Sam Schachter, who is the executive producer of the show that I do on Monumental Sports called Politics Aside with Chris Cillizza. I was working with him to get my shot and the sound all right. So that's where I was. Sam Schmidt, who is a member of the Diamond Club. Sam, thank you for being a member. Sam has been a member for a month. Sam says, any thoughts on Trump's statements on Fox and Friends this morning? I'm getting more pessimistic by the day. All right, so Sam, two things. One, I went through the full transcript of what Trump said on Fox and Friends this morning. It's not, in my mind, and by the way, I think I pulled out 34 lines from that, and that will be on my Substack once I finish with this live chat. So stay tuned for that. It was not as bad as in my mind, is what he said the day of Kirk's death. So that was Wednesday. On Wednesday, Trump basically said, like, look, these people who demonize, they're the ones to blame. I mean, Trump calls it, like, without any seeming acknowledgement that he plays a major role in that, right? I mean, Donald Trump calls people who disagree with him evil. He says they hate America. He then also blamed it on the left, which, at that point, certainly we had no idea why this had been done. We didn't know if it was political or not. They just arrested the suspect on Friday morning. But yeah, I think your pessimism is right, which is Donald Trump is just not capable of bringing people together. He's not capable of empathy empathy for people who don't already agree with him. He's just not. And he's the most prominent person in the country, politically speaking. He just is. So I'm not sure who else would step into that void. I see a bunch of questions, including from Thomas Davenport, about who's a member of the Diamond Club, about Kash Patel, the FBI director. I do not think Kash Patel covered himself in glory over these last few days. He announced that they had found a suspect. That person was not the right person. They then arrested or brought another person into custody. That was not the right person. Then they eventually found this guy. Now, I don't think it's easy to do this, right? It is a needle in a haystack, but don't bring in the wrong people. I mean, that is a really bad look. So yes, Thomas, I think you're right. He did not cover himself in glory there. Tom and Mads, thank you so much for your donation. Comment, Chris, slow down and take a reverent moment. You do a lot of commentary and analysis. What is your emotional core opinion on Kirk as a media personality, as someone that also speaks for a living, as an American? I mean, I've tried to do that in my videos. I didn't know Charlie Kirk. So I'm not going to try to pretend like we were friends and, but as a person who talks about politics, I try to be thoughtful about this in my videos, which is, it's just depressing to me. Not that there are deranged people or person who did this crime, but that the number of people who are rushing to blame one side or the other for this, like, well, the far right commits political violence at a 70% clip versus 30% for the left. Well, political violence, look, we have 2 Trump assassination attempts, Charlie Kirk being murdered, which I think is political, though I don't know for sure. Josh Shapiro's house being a victim of arson, Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, being attacked with a hammer in his home, Steve Scalise being shot at a Republican baseball practice. Like, it is not unique to one party, right? Or one side. And I think when we think in those terms, we miss the point. We miss the point. That's, I don't know. Pocket Watch, I wish YouTube would announce in chat that the video has started so we wouldn't think it just hasn't started for us. Yeah, I don't know what that was, Pocket Watch. And Pocket is, by the way, a member of the Diamond Club and someone who has sent me Almanacs of American Politics for my collection, which you can kind of see down there. And they're actually right here, too, on my desk. I don't know why that is. I was a little late, and then I saw a bunch of people saying, like, has it started, even though I've been talking and we had 280 people in it. So I'm sorry if that wasn't working well. Tom and Mads, thank you for another donation. The left, AOC, went right to pushing gun control. The rifle is a bolt action rifle. There's no way that gun could have been legislated away. I did not see AOC's reaction in particular, so I take your word for it, but I don't want to comment on it. I think in general, it's going to be really hard to stop someone who is committed to doing this from that distance with a bolt action rifle. Do I think we should ban assault weapons? I do. I don't see why anyone needs an AR-15. I just don't. But you're right that doesn't mean that we would never have something like this happen. No question. All right. Sorry. I'm just going through. Criminali, who is a member of the Diamond Club. Thank you, Criminali. As an outsider to the U.S., the thing I really like about Chris's content is that it seems both informed and balanced, and he admits if he doesn't know something. I try to. So many people want or present this image that they know everything, and I just don't. I don't. I'm just trying to figure out a lot of this stuff too. When there's something I do know, I try to make sure I say, this is what I know of this, but I think you have to admit you don't know some stuff and you're trying to figure it out. That's how you build credibility in my mind. Richard Cohn says, do you think Chris is okay? It is not like him to be late. I am fine. Sorry. I tried to put a thing in the chat that said it'll be around 1:15, 1:20 because I was going through this process with my friend Sam about trying to get sound and audio and video to look good. But sorry about that. Paul Olson says we need an explanation of the t-shirt. So this is Fenolio Boot Company, Nacona, Texas. My wife's maiden name is Fenolio. Her people are from Texas. This is not we don't know what relation the people who run the Fenolio Boot Company are to my wife, but we assume they're in some way related. And so when we were out there, it's in West Texas. When we were out there, I went and bought this shirt. Pretty great, right? John Suda. John, thank you for your donation as always. John says, what happened to Charlie Kirk is horrible, heinous, but let's not forget he was one of the most prominent figures in the Stop the Steal movement, and there's much more. Yes, I think he was a propagandist. I don't know about that. Look, John, to be totally honest, talk about knowing what you don't know or admitting what you don't know. I don't know what the technical term propagandist means. If Charlie Kirk believed contrafacts that Donald Trump had won the election, does that make him? Is it propaganda if you believe it? I don't know. But again, my basic view is a human life is a human life is a human life, right? And so whether or not he was a propagandist, murdering him, it seems bad. Like, I don't think we should get into the gradations of like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad, or it was really bad. Like, murder is murder. Like, I don't think you can get into like peeling the onion back on like what's acceptable and what's not. Dennis Waters, Charlie Kirk was a horrible human. He might have been. I'm not disagreeing with that, but he also has a right to express himself without being killed. If free speech, just again, I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it again. Free speech is not there to protect speech with which you agree. Free speech is there to protect speech with which you disagree. That's the whole point. Anybody can be accepting of speech that they agree with. That's easy. Like, oh, Cillizza is great. Yeah, we need to have more free speech like that. Of course. Free speech is meant to protect speech you disagree with. So whether or not Charlie Kirk was a horrible human, I don't know him. So I'm not gonna offer a judgment like that. It doesn't matter. He had a right to express his opinions in a public forum without being murdered. Okay. Let's see. Thomas Davenport, who is a member of the Diamond Club, talking about the Diamond Club. The extra videos each week are nice. I wish Chris would do a second weekly live stream. The Friday one is my favorite thing he does. Yes, I need to do that, Thomas. You're right. I need to do that for members. I'll get on it. Let's see. H. First, Kirk was a racist fascist. Anyone who disagreed is one. Second, did anyone talk about the shooter experience with firearms? 200 yards a shot is not that easy. I just think like we gotta get away from the most important thing here is a human being was murdered for speaking his views in a public forum. We are a country that at root is about free speech. So it is not, I don't think he was a racist fascist. But we can debate that, but there can't be a subset of people where it is acceptable to murder them. I think we're in really deep trouble if that is the case. Really deep trouble. Isaiah Overton, Chris, how do you join the Diamond Club? The join button does not pop up. If you go to youtube.com/Chris Cillizza, it should, or click membership and it'll get you there. Folks, if anyone can put a link to the Diamond Club in there, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you all. By the way, I'm like, let me see how far. I'm 20 minutes into this. Thank you for joining me. I was a little late. Thank you for sticking with me. If you want to donate via the super chat, you can do that at the bottom there with the $ in the rectangle. If you want to become a subscriber to the Diamond Club, which is my subscriber only service, you get more videos, more access to me on YouTube. You can do that. If you want to go check out my writing, you can do that over at Substack. Thank you all for your support. Keep asking questions and I'll fill them out. Paul Olson says, I'm from Minnesota and it's understandable a state legislator doesn't have the prominence of a national figure. Totally agree. Paul, all I was doing was explaining that for people who are saying like there's some sort of bias here that Melissa Hortman's murder wasn't as big a story as Charlie Kirk's, I was trying to explain why. Now, I will say this. The fact that Donald Trump really didn't express any empathy as it related to Melissa Hortman and sort of badmouth Tim Walz, the governor, over all of this is unacceptable, period. Right? Murder is murder is murder. Political violence is political violence is political violence. But again, if you are going to set Donald Trump's behavior and actions as your bar of normalcy and acceptability, to me, that's not a good bar, right? We need to have a bar that's much higher than that. But thank you. Elijah says, God bless all of you. Agree, Elijah. Brandon Ives, can you share your experience of what it's like to cover a breaking story like Charlie Kirk? Not the politics, rather the journalism work being done. So, Brandon, I'm obviously in the analysis business now, not the breaking news business. But I do know how it works. The vast majority of it now is done on social media, usually still X/Twitter. I think that can be really bad because I think you get false reports. Like I saw this report that very early that Kirk was shot by someone shooting a gun off in celebration. I think that traces back to something Matt Dowd said, speculating. Matt Dowd later fired for his appearance on MSNBC about Charlie Kirk. But my point is you don't get a lot of great information. Like I retweeted a reporter, a political reporter at the Deseret News who cited the House Speaker saying Charlie Kirk was dead. And even then, I was like, take this with a grain of salt, but this is a credible, serious reporter reporting on the Utah Speaker of the House. I made sure all the names, like it was really the Speaker of the House, etc. But even then, it's a little dangerous. And so I think it can be a little scary there in terms of like, no one knows anything at the start. So you're relying on eyewitness accounts, you're relying on people on the ground, but then there are so many people who are malintended, whether they're bots, whether they're foreign countries, just trying to stir it up and make it worse than it is, that it's hard to know. Let's see. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through. Luke Stevens. Hey, Chris, all the losing general election presidential candidates in the 21st century so far, Al Gore, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, John McCain, etc. Whose administration would have been the most interesting to see? I think McCain's. Let's say McCain won in 2008, which he was never going to do, but let's say he won. I think McCain was actually a guy interested in trying to move toward bipartisanship, like actually committed to our greater good, and a guy who didn't have all that many F's left to give. Do you know what I mean? He was older. He had survived North Vietnamese prison camp. Like I think he actually would have put some interesting people in the cabinet and tried to do some interesting things. So I guess I'll go with that. Opinionated One, thank you for your donation, and not even a question. Thank you, Sam Schmidt. Sam, thank you for your donation and for being a member of the Diamond Club. Sam says, lighter topic. Do Chuck Schumer's skills match what's needed in this moment for Democrats? Hopefully everyone can disconnect this weekend a bit. Agree on the disconnect. I actually have my college friends coming into town, so I'm excited about that. No, Chuck Schumer's skills do not match what's needed in this moment for Democrats. He's just too old. I mean, look, it's going to happen to me too, but he's too old. You need people who are communicating on social media more effectively, like a James Tallarico. It doesn't have to be James Tallarico's message, but people who get that that's how things are being communicated. Schumer's just too old to do that, I think. Richard Griffin. Richard, thank you for your donation. Hey, Chris, do you think Charlie Kirk's assassination was a false flag operation by the White House to distract from the Epstein file scandal? No. Golly. Doug H. Doug, thank you for that incredibly generous donation. And all Doug says is no question, keep up the good work. Thank you, Doug. And thank you for your support. Let me just say this quickly. First of all, we have over 300 people on this live stream, which is more than we've had in months. I'm thrilled. I kind of wish it wasn't under these circumstances because I think Charlie Kirk's murder is driving it, but I'm glad people are coming here. I'm trying to be a voice of reason, independent and authentic. Let me just say this about people who donate. And again, you can do it in the super chat. You can do it by becoming a member of the Diamond Club on YouTube. Just hit membership on the tabs on my YouTube page. You can donate to buy me a coffee. .com. You can become a member of my Substack, $6 a month, $60 a year. All of those donations go directly to me and doing this. That's it. There's no like 25% of your donation goes. No, it all goes to me to continue to build a career as an independent journalist. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else going on. The company is me and my wife. That's it. Nobody else. So if you believe in this sort of journalism, you need to support it. Doesn't mean you have to support me necessarily, but if you believe in independent journalism, journalism that is outside of legacy media, journalism that is trying to call balls and strikes without fear or favor for Republicans or Democrats, donate to somebody, support somebody. I hope that's me, but if it's not, go support somebody else. That's totally fine. But support somebody. MJ Jewel. MJ, thank you for donation. MJ says, I didn't know much of Charlie Kirk, but RIP to that man. Looking at 2829, what properties can pass in divided government if Democrats retake the House? Also, I saw reporting on Bashir for Senate. Annoyed me bad. Andy Bashir is not running for the Senate. Andy Bashir is running for president. So don't worry about that. In terms of what would get done in 27 and 28 if Democrats take back the House, not a lot. My guess would be the only thing that would get done is funding measures at some level to keep the government open. And then if there was a big catastrophe, natural disaster, God forbid, knock on wood, but if that happened, there'd probably be a way to do that. But I don't think we're seeing a big crime bill. I just don't think we're seeing anything big like that. Isaac Westerling Sauer, thank you for your donation. Isaac says, keep being independent and authentic. I promise you I will. That is my North Star, and I'm gonna keep to it. You Snooze You News says, good take on political violence, Chris. It's the violence that's the problem, not the tribal affiliation. I mean, I think the tribal affiliation leaks into believing that the other side is evil, you Snooze, but you're right. Like, it's the political violence is the issue. The blame is not useful in any way, shape, or form. Hold on, I'm just scrolling. Got that. Let's see. Cole W. Kirk was one of Trump's horcruxes. That's why Trump looked like ass at the 9/11 thing. I mean, again, I try to read everyone's comments. Okay. Again, like, if you think that you're part of the solution with stuff like that, you're not. Quicksilver SG. Now would be an appropriate time for Charlie Kirk quote on empathy. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I'm keeping going. El Hombre de Oro. What's the future of Turning Point USA after Charlie Kirk's death? So Trump, in this Fox and Friends interview, which, by the way, as I said earlier, but in case you missed it, I went through the whole transcript. It was long. I have 34 lines that I think you'll want to see. It's over at my Substack. It'll publish shortly after I got to hit publish. So it'll publish shortly after I finish doing this. In it, he talks about talking to Kirk's wife and that she wants to continue this on and that Trump hopes it continues on. We'll see. I mean, I don't know, right? Turning Point USA was so closely aligned with and connected to Charlie Kirk and him going out in the country and doing all this stuff. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, yeah. Excuse me. Paul Olson. Paul, thank you for your donation. Paul says, what would you guess the shelf life for Kirk as a news story? How long will the TV chattering class chatter? Certainly through the weekend. And then, I mean, some of this depends, Paul, on is there another story that knocks it out? I know people don't like to hear this, but that's just true. If there's another big story that will knock it out. If Trump goes into Memphis with National Guard troops, as he suggested he would in this Fox and Friends interview, that might knock it out or knock it off the main thing. I mean, I think as long as until his funeral and memorial service, we'll still be talking about it. If that conversation was about, we need to turn the heat down, we need to do better, I'd be fine with that. Unfortunately, I worry that a lot of that conversation is going to be about, who's to blame for this, because we're going to get the shooter's ideology or motivations or what, and people are going to, of course, jump on that. I saw somebody posting online like, this guy already gave $200 to Donald Trump. It's like, well, Tyler Stevenson, which I think is a name, or Peterson's a pretty common name. Let's not assume that that's the same person. So that's what worries me. Emeritus. I think what makes it so frustrating is that to the level of care right-wing politicians care about these things. Mike Lee's comments on Melissa Hortman, Trump's general actions to that debacle, and Paul Pelosi. I agree. I would say the mockery of Paul Pelosi by the right, Donald Trump's actions after Melissa Hortman's murder, totally inappropriate. But again, this is what I would tell you. Is that your bar for acceptable conduct? Is because Donald Trump acts and behaves poorly and has no empathy, does that mean that you are okay to not have empathy? No. right? I think that can't be our bar. I mean, I just keep coming back to that. It's so many people like, well, Donald Trump didn't call the Hortmans. Yeah, that was a mistake. Yeah, he should have. He should have recognized that whether Melissa Hortman was a Democrat or Republican doesn't matter. That a victim of political violence is a victim of political violence, and that is a threat and a stain against all of us. Yeah, he should have realized that. But is the response to that when Charlie Kirk is murdered that he doesn't deserve empathy because Donald Trump didn't give empathy? I mean, that talk about an eye for an eye makes everybody blind. I just don't see it. Parth Sharma, do you think we will ever have leaders that can meet a moment like this? Hold on. Sorry. I think there are some. Look, I think Spencer Cox, the Republican governor of Utah, I was a fan of him before this. I'm actually going to write about him later. I really like him. Sorry, excuse me. I think that he struck the right tone. He talked about how we got to get off of social media, how we got to not villainize people who disagree with us. And he's been at that for a long time, long before Charlie Kirk was shot on Wednesday in Utah. He is someone who has preached disagreeing without being disagreeable, about reasonable people can disagree, about the need to have civil conversation. So I think Spencer Cox, this is an example of a leader who meets the moment. Donald Trump is not a leader who meets the moment. He's just not. Neither is Nancy Mace. Neither is J.B. Pritzker. Like, these people are just doing it for their political gain. And I hate that. Let's see. Evan Morgan. Is it bad if someone is happy Kirk is dead, even they thought he was a truly evil person with evil opinions? Yeah. I mean, I think it's bad for your soul to be happy when someone who is not Adolf Hitler is dead. Yeah. Stang Barthofer. I struggle to understand why people grave dance if the grave dancing will directly run counter to all of the dancers' purported political goals. Like, sure, you got some internet dopamine. Wow. Agree. Marcy B says, I completely disagreed with Charlie Kirk. That's no reason to kill someone. Correct. Michael Gates. Chris, do you think that the current situation resembles the 60s in America? How did the country overcome political divides back then? I mean, Nixon wasn't exactly a unification figure. I actually think it more closely resembles the 70s. In the 70s, there was a significant amount of political violence. People forget about that. So how did we overcome it? Slowly, but Reagan, one shining city on a hill. I don't totally know the specifics on how we overcame it, but I will look into it. But I think the 70s is actually more. I know the 60s had unrest, and obviously we had MLK assassinated, RFK assassinated, John F. Kennedy assassinated. I mean, I know all those things, but in the 70s there was actually more political violence, just maybe not as high profile of people. Let's see. Lou 8. Love your work. The cheapest way is to support you. Do you think there will be an easier way to support multiple independent journalists in affordable ways, like getting cable versus streaming services? Lou, I hope. The cheapest way to support me is just hit the subscribe button on YouTube because it's free, and tell a few people about it. As it relates to Substack and sort of bundling and that sort of stuff, I think it's coming. I don't think it's coming soon enough, but I agree with you. Like, yeah, I mean, if you want to support me, you can. It's $6 a month. That's not too much for most people. But what if there's 5 people that you really like? Well, now it's $30 a month, and that's more. So yeah, I agree. I think we need to get to bundling. But the easiest thing that you can do is hit that subscribe button. Paul Anthony Johnson. No one needs an AR-15. Sigh, stupid commentary. So I said I don't think anyone needs an AR-15. Tell me why that's stupid. Why do we need that weapon? I'm not saying ban all guns. I'm saying ban that weapon. Tell me why that weapon in particular should be available for a civilian to purchase. Just tell me. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not a gun expert, but tell me why. Just don't say it's a stupid take. Tom and Mads, at 27 years of age, I'm pretty solidly conservative / on the right. I like Chris's content because it gives a fair, honest perspective. Thank you. I try. Lar Reevman. The media is partly to blame. Yeah, I think the media is partly to blame for where we are. I don't disagree with you. I don't think they're wholly to blame, but let's see. Overtime with SD guy. No Japan. Oh, sorry. I don't know what. Sorry, missing things. Harrison and Derek's channel. Stop glorifying violence. He was an a-hole, but never should have been killed for that. Yeah, I mean, that's my view. Like, I don't feel that way about Charlie Kirk, but like, there are people who hate me. I mean, I know that that's the case, but I don't think I deserve to be murdered for it. I certainly don't think Charlie Kirk did. Jacob Kitty says, thanks for the music, Rex. You bet, of course. Let's see. Sorry, just scrolling through. Paul Olson said, good points about McCain. Thank you. Bill Reeve, what do you think about Matt Dowd being fired? I'm not a fan of Matt Dowd. Honestly, a lot of it's personal. He's just attacked me a bunch of times for things I think are unfair. I think he was a Republican pollster for George W. Bush. Now he's like a reflexive liberal who still dines out that he was once a Republican. I'm not in favor of people getting fired as a general rule. Trust me, from personal experience. But I think what he said, in the moment was inappropriate. In the moment, what you say is, look, I don't agree. What Matt Dowd should have said is, I don't agree with Charlie Kirk on almost anything, but I also don't think he deserved to be shot. Period. End of conversation. Let's see. Joe Marshall. Chris, what do you make of people like Jesse Waters saying this is war? It's massively irresponsible to me. Everyone needs to turn the dial down. Yes, it's hugely irresponsible. Hugely. Yeah, I mean, the idea, I also saw like Blake Masters, who's run for the Senate before, and Mike Cernovich and a couple other people on the right were like, we need to round up everyone who funds liberal groups and silence them. No, that's exactly the wrong answer. Charlie Kirk wouldn't be in favor of that, right? Like, what we need to do is we need to stop resorting to violence when it comes to disagreement. We need to learn how to argue and disagree without being driven to these extreme measures. We need to turn it down a little bit. Yeah, it's really bad. MJ Jewell. MJ says, Kamala Harris won't make it out of the primaries if she runs again, but what's her future look like? She said no to California governor, maybe a Supreme Court seat. I agree. I don't think she's going to win. I ranked her. I put out my new 2028 rankings Tuesday. Actually, it was Wednesday morning before Charlie Kirk got shot over at Substack. You can check them out. I think I have Harris 4th. I had her 7th, but that was before she announced that she wasn't going to run for governor and makes it more likely she's going to run for president. I do not think she will win. I think she is a reminder of things people don't want to be reminded of on the Democratic side, Joe Biden being the big thing. And I think she is not a particularly good candidate. What does she do after that? I don't know. I think she should run for governor, as I said many times. Brett Green says, is that a house phone in 2025? Yes, that was my house phone ringing. And the reason I have it is because it's cheaper for me to have a house phone in addition to cable and TV than to just have cable and internet and TV. I know that's weird. Let's see. Derek Rawlings. It's just hard to stay decent and polite in the face of others' indecency and impoliteness for so long. I fight that all the time these days. Of course. It's not easy. I get it. It's easier to get down in the mud, but I'm just saying that won't work. Look, for every person that says I'm a moron and far worse, don't you think I want to respond, you're a moron? Of course I do. They don't know me. They don't know what I'm trying to do, right? They're just name calling. They're just trying to be bullies. I don't do it because it doesn't get us anywhere. It might make me feel better in the moment, but it's not going to make me feel better in the long run. It's not going to solve our problems. Daniel Villasana, I agree that the killing was illegal. I mean, obviously, and the shooter must be held to account. Yes, but no empathy for a man who made a career of sowing the seeds of hate. I just think if you are going to say that there are certain people not worth empathy, I think your empathy is, I think that's a dangerous thing in the long run. Carl, I agree that we need empathy regardless of how Trump acts, but how are we going to stop when Donald Trump is still in charge? He clearly emboldens people. I don't see how we get out of it. I don't really either. Thomas Davenport says, I haven't had a house phone in 10 to 12 years. I know. Sorry. Joe Marshall, I'm very far left, like to the left of 95% of the country. I appreciate the Utah governor's words. We need more people like that. Totally. Opinionated One says, I still have a house phone. There you go. Me and you. Christopher Cantrell, stepping away from the Kirk issue, will there be any reaction in the U.S. from the Polish drone incursion by Russia? I don't think so. I don't think people are following it, even if there wasn't this Charlie Kirk story. And I think because this Charlie Kirk story is out there, people won't follow it. Barnaby Jones. Also, the 13th anniversary of our Democrat buddies leaving our boys to die in Benghazi. Okay. Craig Skeptic, I find it disappointing that we can't, who is a member of the Diamond Club, I find it disappointing that we can't simply recognize that someone died simply for their beliefs, but I'm disappointed by all the violence is terrible, but me too. No need for a but. Political violence is bad, period. We can't have it, period. Cover the pitch. Chris, do you think the corporate media is missing the moment? Are they just victims of the 24-hour news cycle? They don't know what else to do. I don't know like what specific moment they're missing. This is a moment for authenticity. This moment in journalism, not like this week or Charlie Kirk being shot. This is a moment for authenticity. You need to bring people in. You need to explain why you do what you do. You need to be transparent. This is my house. This is my home office. This is what I do. I talk and write about politics from an independent, authentic point of view. Big newsrooms are never going to be able to do that. You might be able to trust me. It's going to be hard for you to trust CNN or the Washington Post. It's just too big an entity. So I don't think they're missing the moment. I think they're a bad fit for the moment. Let's see, Rob. Reading the celebratory mocking comments about someone being murdered is making me lose faith in humanity. I agree. I think you got to look deep in. Just because you don't agree with Charlie Kirk or you hate what he said, you think it's okay that he was murdered? You don't feel badly for his wife and his two little kids? To me, that's very problematic. El Hombre de Oro. I'm watching left liberal channels and commentators are emphasizing the facts like he was a white, straight male, his family was conservative. What's your take on that? It's irrelevant to me. You should not be murdered for your views. I don't know how I can put it any other way. All the other stuff is secondary. WJK, who is a member of the Diamond Club. We've had presidents of both parties in my lifetime that would rise to a moment like this. Reagan, Obama come to mind. The advancement of extremism in politics makes them harder to find. Agree. Now, Obama would have given a great speech about this. I mean, I think he would have wanted to try to bring the country together. I think just the way he was positioned and the polarization of our politics made that almost impossible, but you're right. Let's see. Jedi Ghost Bear. Hey, Chris, have you read the book Disunion by Elizabeth Ferron? It's about how the concept of disunion was used in political conversation before the Civil War. I know you're a Civil War buff. I haven't read it yet, but I'll look it up. Overtime says, I don't hate you, Chris. I love you. Wow. Okay. Yes. Pocket Watch. There are over 1,900 bombings in the U.S. in 1972-ish. This is covered in a great new book called Days of Rage. Highly recommend. Thank you for Pocket for it. Is people do not realize how violent political time the 70s were. Oh gosh, sorry, just skipped down again. Sorry. I'm trying to get people who have not asked questions. Ursula Pachulo. James Tallarico was on News Nation last night with Chris Cuomo. He seems so genuine and sincere. Yes, very talented communicator. I think he should have run for governor of Texas. He's running for the Senate. I don't know if he wins a primary against Colin Allred, and I don't know if he could beat Ken Paxton or John Cornyn. But yes, very talented communicator. Rusty, our leaders are not up to the task because it requires asking us citizens to make personal sacrifices to not be jerks to each other. I agree. The incentive structure is screwed up. We like the idea of being open-minded, but when we are confronted with a view that we disagree with, the idea of being open-minded and tolerant goes out the window. Totally agree. Robert New York, gee, who calls half of the country fascist? Wonder where that talk track came from. I mean, yes, I think it is dangerous, and I've said this before, I think it is dangerous to say Donald Trump is Hitler. I think it is dangerous to compare what Republicans are right now to Nazism. At the same time, it is dangerous for Donald Trump to say his opponents are evil and they hate America. MSU fan, who wins the Georgia Senate election? Maine and North Carolina. I think if Derek Dooley is the nominee, that could be a very difficult challenge for John Ossoff, depending on what the national political environment looks like. In Maine, it looks like Janet Mills is going to win, is going to run. And if that's the case, that's a good race. I never bet against Susan Collins. North Carolina, I think Roy Cooper will win. Robert New York says, you worked at CNN for years. Yes, 4 years. I don't, people seem that that's like I'm hiding that. No, I worked at CNN for many years, 4 years. Marcy B, I got skipped. The government shut down in 2 weeks. I don't know. I really don't. I love Marcy. I'd love to. I'm going to dive more into it this coming week. They don't do anything to the last minute. I think the way that you need to think about Congress as it relates to government shutdowns is like a college student and an exam paper, essay for the last class. They're going to wait until the night before. So I don't know that we know anything just yet, but that's the reality. So let's see. But I think it is more likely than it has been in several years that the government would shut down, at least for some time. Let's see. Atheist nihilist Chris, please contextualize Charlie Kirk's assassination. Who's the left's Kirk? Trying to understand who is a comparable figure on the left, unelected, that caused this much grief, outrage on the right. Good question. I don't know. It's mostly elected officials. No one's jumping to mind as an unelected that would cause this big of a situation. But look, I would also say the circumstances. He was engaging in a civil conversation with the public. He was shot and it's on camera. He's young and leaves behind a young family. There's a lot of things that pull people into this story. So yeah. Sash, how do you feel about the FBI blunders on the manhunt investigation? Not great. Look, don't arrest people or bring people in who didn't do it as a general rule. Certainly, if you're going to do that, don't Kash Patel announce on social media. I mean, look, Kash Patel was a very odd pick in terms of resume and background to head the FBI. Like, that's not new. SP, murder is never okay. Yes. Justin D, what's your opinion on WrestleMania in Saudi? Inevitable. Michael Draper, change the topic. Any thoughts on the no-show sponsorship for Kawhi Leonard? Were the Clippers circumventing the salary cap? I trust my friend Pablo Torre, who broke this news. Seems to me they were. I know Mark Cuban's got a different take, but man, it smells fishy. Brett Green, will the government shut down? You know what, Brett? Let me say 60% yes, 40% no right now. Pete Pineda, sorry, I'm trying to knock a bunch of these out. Pete Pineda, Charlie Kirk was not a horrible human. A horrible human would be someone talking bad about the dead. Marcy B, just wanted your take. I've been around a long time. I've been through a bunch of these. I also remember the violence of the 70s. Yes. Ed Monroe, the deification of Charlie Kirk seems opportunistic and makes me uncomfortable, especially when I often see it followed by literal calls to round up the Dems. So, look, my view is like anyone who dies a public death for speaking their mind, I think who's a very high profile figure, is going to get this talk of martyrdom, talk of, deification seems to me a little more. But no, I do not think you should use this as a supposition to round up Democrats. I mean, that's the exact wrong response. And yes, some on the right are responding that way. MJ Jewell, what would your Emmy-winning speech sound like? Thank you for your attention in this matter. And then I'd leave. Microphone drop. Derek Rawlings, knowing jumping to mind as a Kirk analog for Democrats is likely a big problem for Democrats. It is, although just because I can't think of it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Kendall Christensen, the reaction from the Charlie Kirk incident has been mostly partisan positioning. What is the quickest way to get people to humanize the side they disagree with? How do we solve the underlying issue? Think of him as a father and a husband. Two little kids are going to grow up without a dad because their dad was murdered for saying what he thought. A wife is gonna have to raise two kids without a husband because of her husband engaging in public dialogue. Now, again, I'm not lionizing Charlie Kirk. I disagree with a lot of what he said. I think he was purposely provocative a lot of times, but he shouldn't have been murdered. Michael Gates, do you think it's possible that one day YouTube journalists will receive Pulitzers? I think YouTube journalists should already be eligible for Pulitzers. The Pulitzer Committee needs to redo its criteria. Stop just giving things to mainstream media. Ben Pearson, Gerald Ford is almost assassinated twice in the same week. Yes, the 70s were hugely political violent. Josh Wilcox, did you watch Packers Commanders last night? I'm really excited about the Packers this season. Yes, the Packers look dominant. The final score and the stats do not reflect how dominant the Packers looked. Let's see. Lou 8. Lou says, I'll subscribe to your Substack. I condemn political violence. You don't have to go in depth, but does free speech stop when it becomes super hateful speech like the KKK? Yes. I think there is a line of hate speech. I do not think Charlie Kirk crossed that line. But yes, I do. Daniel Lee, not only do you have a landline, but someone actually called it. Love your content, Chris. I know it's spam, I think, who called it, but yeah. Okay, let me wrap up. I think I've got everybody. If I missed you, please tell me. For a sec, let me make the pitch. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Like this video. There's 280 people in here, but only 120 likes. Hit that thumbs up for me. Tell people about this. Think about being a member of the Diamond Club. It's $6.99 a month. You'll get 2 to 3 to 4 more videos than you get on the regular feed. I hope that people like it. If you are a Diamond Club member, please write a testimonial. Thank you for sticking with me. As I said, I was trying to get my camera and my audio set so that it's not too soft. I know people say the audio is also too soft. So I'm trying to balance that out, trying to get it professionalized. I see I missed a question. Rob says there's no legal definition of hate speech. The closest thing is inciting violence, which is illegal. Thank you for that. SP, you missed my question. SP said, former top FBI officials have filed a lawsuit against Kash Patel, alleging he illegally fired them in a politically motivated purge at the direction of the White House. We'll see. Arnav, do Dems have a chance at winning the Senate? 25% chance, maybe slightly lower. Pete Pineda, hate speech, no such thing legally in the U.S. Threatening violence is illegal. Direct threats. Okay, thank you. That is helpful. Again, I think that's really hard. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you all. Touch grass this weekend. In the words of Utah Governor Spencer Cox, go touch grass. Go outside. Get offline. These people who are manufacturing, commodifying outrage is bad for us. Murder is wrong. Free speech is there to protect speech with which you disagree. That's the point. You can hate Charlie Kirk, and you can 100% believe he has a right to speak his mind without the threat of violence, and certainly without being murdered for being who he is. Thank you all. Independent, authentic. That's me. That's what I am aiming for every single day. That is my North Star. Please support my journalism. You can do it at Substack, become a paid subscriber. You can do it here, become a member of the Diamond Club. You can do it for free here and just hit subscribe. You can do it for free at Substack, become a subscriber, and you'll get free content every single day. So thank you. Spread the word. And again, take care of ourselves and each other. What unites us, what we have in common, is so much more than what we have not in common, what doesn't unite us. Right? Focus on that. Politics and a lot of the media is focused on driving you to the parts we disagree with each other about. Yes, they exist, but no, they are not the majority or even close. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Everybody take care. Be well.